There's something about small towns in the South. Everyone waves at you when you drive by. The pie at the diner is always the best you'll ever have. And if you hang around long enough, somebody will pull you aside and say, "Don't go out past that old mill after dark." And that's when you've got a choice. Pack your bags or lean in and start asking questions. Today's guests, they leaned in. Luke and Brad from Sozo Bear Films just wrapped up a mini docuseries about strange happenings, paranormal sightings, and cryptid encounters in the not-so-sleepy little mountain town of Ellijay, Georgia. Incredible filmmakers, fellow adventurers, and all-around rad dudes, Luke and Brad from Sozo Bear Films are here. And trust us, we've seen them take down both camera batteries and ogres with equal precision. So, grab your lantern, maybe keep one hand on your dice bag, and join us as we explore the strange side of Ellijay.
Howdy, friends. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, the podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. I'm your host, Tyler Bentz, and this is your other host,
Woody Brown.
Hey, pal.
Hey, man.
How we doing?
Hey, pretty good. I'm excited to have these two fellas in the studio today.
Yes, sir.
What's up, dudes?
What's up?
What is up?
Thanks for having us.
So
Not a lot of
excited, huh?
enthusiasm. Yeah.
Sorry. Can we take that
Sorry.
from the top? Take it
Yeah,
from the
let's
top.
take it again.
Hey, are we recording?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yes, we're
No.
recording.
We are pumped. We're pumped to
Yeah.
be here for real.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were last on the list, but
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
okay.
you know, last on
But
the
first
press
in our
tour,
hearts.
but- okay,
Okay.
good to know. Good to
we'll
know.
take it.
Now, before we start getting into like all the spooky stuff and all that, I kind of wanted to give you guys a chance to sort of, I think maybe the first time y'all were on when we sort of talked about our D&D adventures together, or maybe when Luke was on, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want y'all to maybe give our audience who haven't heard your story real quick, maybe just a quick rundown of your origin story. For example, how did Sozo Bear Films actually start, and, you know, where'd you get the name from?
Yeah, for sure. I thought for a second you were going to say, I just want to give you all a chance to tell everybody what a good actor I am. Because
And
Woody has acted in some of our stuff.
yeah, yep. Somehow I'm always cast as like, I think anytime there's a character actual name instead of just like, you know, I don't know, Agent One or whatever it is on the script, you know,
Yeah.
it was Hector.
He's the guy.
And so what I always wanted to know is, did you name the character first, or did I just happen to fit into the profile of who Hector was?
No, we wrote it. We wrote that for you, dude. So
You know, and
no one
just
else
came
can
up with
play
the
it.
name Hector on purpose later. Got
Yes.
it.
No, but yeah, Sozo Bear. Yeah, I mean, Brad and I met in college. We were in film school at University of North Georgia, and basically we were just like making a lot of short films together at that time. And once we graduated, we kind of like were like, what are we going to do with our lives? So we, thankfully, the school hired us to make a video about like the art department and everything, and that was basically our first client. And from there, we just kind of kept going, kept trying to get more clients, and now, yeah, we've been in business like nearly a decade, making promotional videos and music videos and commercials and
Short films
Short
and
films.
everything in between, and this documentary series.
Yeah.
And then
Man,
the,
that's awesome.
the name Sozo Bear, it was named after both. We both had two different cats. Just to clarify, so I had a cat named Sozo, and Brad has a cat named Bear, and that's how we came up
just
with the
combined
name.
it.
Yeah,
Man, that's
There's
awesome.
two cat ladies.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Cat
Yep.
ladies, Luke and Brad.
that's right.
Now, we know, of course, the name Sozo Bear now, but did you have any others that you're like kicking around that didn't make the cut? Like, that's what I've, or was it
Dude,
just
we-
immediately apparent, like, hey, I've got this cat. Hey, I've got a cat too.
No, the story was like, so the first movie we did together, which was our senior show at the university, it was called The Apology Service. And we had this premiere, like, it was November of 2015. And we just sat down and talked about, okay, what if we came up with just a name? Like, this was before even thinking, like Luke said, are we going to be able to do this like professionally or anything? Like, what's next? But we thought it'd be cool to create like a production company name just to premiere with the release of this movie at its premiere. So we sat down for, I felt like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just name generators, like talked about anything and everything of what could we call the company.
Yeah,
And
nothing good.
nothing really stuck. Like, nothing made sense. And then Sozo Bear kind of just, we landed on that. And then Luke quickly made the logo, and that's the logo we still have today.
I made that logo in literally 2 minutes, like
Yeah,
in
it's
Photoshop.
gorgeous, though.
And it just fit. So
Yeah.
it was meant to be.
I agree, man. I think all the best sort of production studios that we know of, or that just like, if you think about it for a second, you know, it's that sort of simple but memorable logo. I mean, Tyler, you know, he's the graphic artist or whatever, so you can attest to this. But like, that's what I love about your logo too. It's just simplistic. It stands out. You know exactly what it is when you see it. But I was hoping that you'd say like media, or, you know, I don't know. That's not going to go in there, of course. But
Well, the funny thing too is like whenever, I mean, and I could say this, you know, using some of the name generators for like D&D characters and stuff, it's like they always come back like so overly like serious.
yeah.
It's like, this is very melodramatic.
Yeah.
So
Well, and this was in the days before we had ChatGPT, so I can't imagine like now it's like people are probably coming up with their names a lot easier.
dude, you know what's funny? It's so funny we're having this conversation because Woody and I yesterday were talking about this. Have you guys heard of that?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it's like literally like an AI band, but
Oh.
all of the members have like, you know, these made up like backgrounds and all this stuff. And dude, they're getting 350,000 listens a month.
Kill me.
So
Kill
it's
me
like
now.
so it's like Gorillaz if Gorillaz wasn't an actual band and creative
Of people.
direction
Yeah.
making it work.
But
Yeah.
there's like millions of like AI generated like photos of the band members like, hey, we're hanging out, we're eating ice cream, we're at a carnival. Like, it's crazy, dude.
Dude, I got it. Yeah, off air. I'll tell y'all somebody. There's somebody else that I've been following that I think is using a bunch of AI.
Oh yeah. For
Oh,
sure.
really?
100%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go ahead
You
and
know,
tell
like-
us on air. Let's
No,
break it
no,
out.
no. So, you know, like we actually, I mean, we've had to use a lot of AI. We've had to embrace a lot of it because, like, unfortunately, it's
Things
just-
are changing.
It sucks, man. It's like
Not over here.
Hair's grown in weird new places.
Yeah, that's true. Like the visual effects side of stuff, especially. It's like, I mean, Netflix just released a thing. They are doing full blown visual effects scenes with AI now.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, they did a full like train crash scene, all this stuff. It's all generated.
And what did they say? It like took a week compared to like a month and
Yeah,
a half.
it would have taken 6 weeks or whatever, and it took a small team. I mean, you have to do it. It still takes a lot of kind of work to get these prompts and everything to work right, and then you probably are still compositing stuff with it to make it look good. But like, still, it's insane. I mean, it's a ton. It's way less work than it used to be.
I think, would you agree that in some ways, I think you have to embrace AI in some capacity? And if I feel like when really hyper creative people do, they're still utilizing it in a creative way.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I don't,
yeah.
when I say embrace, I don't mean just like give in to the dark side and just only make things that are that. But I think there's like
there's
some,
a difference between like AI slop and then people who use AI to
As a
benefit
tool.
their it's a tool, and it's
Right.
still like there's an art to it. Yeah.
Which by the way, I mean, I'm kind of ignorant on this, but like how does the whole process of like sort of using AI like with your sort of composite
yeah.
kind of like how is that integrated even?
So typically what we'll do is we'll use maybe like Mid-Journey or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
you can like generate the image that you want to start with, and then you got to use other it takes like 5 different programs really. No one's doing all this in one program, pretty much.
And definitely not one click and it's perfect.
So you'll take
but you're talking about like video, like an action sequence.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's shots in the doc that are AI generated.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Dogman.
You would just never know.
Stuff like that. Like we would generate it in Midjourney or something, and then take that into like Runway is one of them. We just got like the Google VO thing, so we've been testing that out. And so it takes a lot of work to like figure out the right prompt, and it eats up a lot of your credits. You're gonna like generate a bunch of crap you can't use. But eventually you'll land on something that's pretty good, and then you can kind of like, you'll take that and then fly it into say like After Effects or whatever, and you're going to put more like haze or smoke and fog, stuff like that. Add stuff, supplement it. So you can still like art direct it a lot, and you can still put some of that creative juice into it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said on the show, like I am as like sort of more of like a traditional artist. I mean, I do digital stuff too, but like, I don't know, I'm like inherently against it, but man, it is impressive though. It's hard not to like, even the stuff that like was coming out several years ago, where it's like, oh, here's the cast of Batman, like, back in like the 50s, or like, all, that kind of stuff. It's so impressive.
And it's going so fast, like, that, like, I just remember when we first got DALL-E or whatever, and it was like, oh wow, this is really cool. You can generate like it's like a sketch, like a courtroom sketch of Darth Vader, stuff like that. It's just stuff you'd never think of. And then now to full, like some of that video stuff that you're seeing online, it's some of it you can almost not tell that it's AI. And then eventually you won't be able to tell. Like it definitely will be there. Like we won't be able to tell the difference soon.
And do you think a lot of that is due to like some of like the post like processing stuff, kind of like how, if I created something in Illustrator, or I hand drew something and then pulled it into Photoshop to kind of, age it up or debase it, or like one of those things, do you think a lot of it is like that sort of like post editing kind of stuff? That's like, it's sort of like the cherry on top, or you're just saying like just in general, just AI is just getting so fast and so
in general, it's just getting so good. Like I just think eventually it will be to the point where you can basically, and pretty much I think basically anybody will be able to do it. Like it's not going to be like you got to be a filmmaker or somebody to figure this out. Like you'll be able to just like any kid with a cell phone basically will be able to just say what they want it to be. Boom, they'll probably be able to make a whole movie, to be honest. So that's what's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. Did you guys happen to listen to, I mean, I don't know, how long ago was our Loab or Lobe?
I have episode? Listened to that one, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it feels like a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
Hear more about this rad story on That Would Be Rad, Season 2, Episode 55. Loab, the first AI cryptid, tulpa, or terrifying art demon.
I'm curious as to like, I really haven't looked into that, but I wonder, where that's kind of gone.
Oh, dude, there's an account that I follow that is just like these like horror
gruesome
mini maybe 15 to 30 second like
I've seen
trailers and stuff, and it's just the most amazing thing, and it's so creepy. It's almost like I like the fact that it doesn't look perfect yet, but it looks real enough. The textures and stuff are real enough to where it's just like even more horrific kind of thing.
Still having trouble with fingers though.
Yeah, it's getting better. The fingers are getting better, but because they used to be really bad.
Yeah,
so bad.
I think it fits like you're saying, Woody, in the more horror space or sci-fi or fanatical. It can do stuff really well. I think it's when it's trying to replicate reality as we know it is when you kind of have that frame of reference of going, okay, like this still is a little uncanny.
Yeah,
it's getting better, but I think that's like the difference.
Like people probably too. Everyone doesn't really understand like how it works, but I mean, it's using a data set, so it's like pulling from like so much stuff, and then that's why like I think as a like traditional artist, Tyler, you're like, oh well, they're just literally stealing traditional artist work to make this.
Sure.
So it's like the AI is not just like really good at this stuff. It's using someone's art direction. Someone's like did this, made this thing look this good somewhere, and it's just And I guess
Yeah, it's like that Instagram video I showed you the other
Yeah.
day, and it's someone took a Starbucks ad and then recreated it like
with AI.
with AI, but then
Mm-hmm.
Luke was like, "Well, that's great, but you still had to have the art direction to even
Right.
decide on
The start, yeah.
what that
Right.
should look like."
Yeah, the branding of
Yeah.
Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah, because like just ripping off those shots, like I mean, that's pretty kind of easy. Like, yeah, we could actually go shoot something.
Yeah,
and
we
almost-
could do that in a
Yeah.
day.
So
Okay,
it's
easy with the bragging.
I mean, do you feel like
It's
so?
like maybe 20 minutes. You know?
Yeah.
And in just a second, those listening, I want to dive into the paranormal series and stuff that you guys are doing.
Let's just talk about AI.
But what I was going to say is, I feel like the benefit. Sometimes there's just. I feel like this kind of happened in the '90s when like CGI was getting quote unquote better, but then people would just use it too much.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
became this like there's this sort of hopefully a backtrack in that people are wanting to be more practical, and I think.
Oh, you're seeing it. Yeah.
Where I want people to
I think
start
we're
using
not
more
there
like
yet.
no, we're definitely not there yet.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, at some point, we're going to get so sort of tired of. It's sort of like I don't know. I almost want there to be somebody that's like, no, man, I'm using actual film.
Well, the problem is though, is with AI and like how fast it's going. Eventually, that analog.
Oh yeah, you get boxed
thing,
out. Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's going to be
You can make the
imperceptible.
analog look with
right.
AI.
Exactly.
Well, I think what's going to happen, especially in the film world, is CGI did not go away, but you have people like Christopher Nolan, David Fincher, who utilize CGI, but you would never know it. You know, they do it in such a way that it's really seamless.
Yeah.
And I mean, even someone like Martin Scorsese, you look at a movie like Wolf of Wall Street, and that you would think, oh, that's not a CGI, it's not Independence Day, things are blowing up or anything. But
well, when he transforms
if you watch
into the werewolf, though.
well, yeah. But if you watch the behind the scenes, they're doing a ton of set extensions, or they're
right.
it's like they have this section of the room, but if they need to show out the window, that's all CGI, but you would never notice that.
Oh, that's
and I think
interesting.
that's
Yeah.
where eventually I think you're totally right, Woody, that AI is going to go the way where like the late 90s is just almost way too obvious and it's going to age really poorly, but I feel like it's going to bounce back and there'll be those people who know how to use it in a tasteful way.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not like everything's built around AI.
Right. And
I
it's
hope
kinda
we
like-
don't lose filmmaking as it is. It just
Yeah.
becomes part of the toolbox.
Yeah, I feel like the good storytellers and the people that are going to embrace it in the sense that they're going to use it to maybe slightly enhance their story rather than be the main driving force of their story, that's who's going to survive in all aspects, whether it's a comic artist, a podcaster, a film company, like whatever that is. If you utilize it to enhance your speed, and or get rid of some of the stuff that is just easier for you to, because I mean, there's just certain things that if you don't know about, I feel like you have to, there's an art to it all. And I don't know that eventually you're going to be able to train AI to be able to, I mean, I think you can get close and all that, but let's save the rest of this. Let's table this for just a second. Because I really do want to dig into the, I really want to dig into.
I really want to talk about this. Look at sheet of paper.
Yeah, I
What
really
is it
want to
called?
talk about this. Sozo Bear. No, Unknown Ellijay, this docuseries, how it came about, all that. So let's take a quick break, and when we get back, let's dive right in.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
It's a pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire. You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you? We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody,
And this is Tyler, and you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
and now back to our show. All right, guys. First, I want you to, I think I kind of asked this the other day when we were hanging out, when we went to go see that new movie, Weapons, which was amazing, by the way. How did you guys land on Ellijay as the setting for something so strange and unknown and all that.
Yeah. Well, we've been actually doing a lot of work with Ellijay, like their tourism board and all that kind of stuff, doing like traditional advertising pretty much for the past couple of years. And so like last year they asked us to make something that was kind of like Bigfoot related. So we made a kind of just a funny video. It's like you're following this like YouTuber character as he's like looking for Bigfoot, out in Ellijay, and it was just like tongue in cheek. It was very much still just like an ad, I guess, but it was cool because we got to some of the stuff we're into. We were like, oh, this is fun. We get to like explore this a little bit, even though it's so like kind of fictional and funny and whatever.
Yeah.
And the commercial ends at the Bigfoot Museum. Like that's a big reason they wanted to do that. Is Expedition Bigfoot is the like, I guess the definitive Bigfoot museum in the Southeast.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We've talked about it on the show, and it is amazing. Like somebody put a lot of love into that place.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. So that they released that video and stuff, and it did. I think it did really well for them, and they basically were like, "We'd like to follow it up. Like, could we do something almost like a spoof of like a Blair Witch or like a ghost related thing, something?" And that's when we had the idea to maybe like take a bigger swing. Like we were like, what if we did something that's more like in earnest, like really exploring these stories and this topic and this community and all that stuff. And obviously, like, we're big fans of like Hellier and stuff like that. Yeah. So
Woody still hasn't seen it.
Nope.
It's good. It's so well done. It was a huge influence for this.
Yeah.
But so we pitched that idea, and that was a big swing because it's like this is kind of like a big thing to take on, and also it's so out of the box. Like, it's like it is a technically like it serves as like a tourism tool. Like it's going to attract the offbeat traveler to Ellijay, but it's like really the sort of the integrity of the show is always kept intact because of the, I guess, just the structure of it, the makeup of like what the DNA, what we wanted it to be. And so they loved that idea, thankfully, and we're like, let's pursue it. It took us like nearly a year to pull off these 3 episodes because it's a ton of research and a lot of interviews and a lot of footage and whatever. But
we've done like documentary promotional videos before, but they're more like 2-minute pieces. You go to a small business, you talk with the owner and put together like a 2-minute video, and that's it. I mean, this is like a 3-episode, kind of 30-minute altogether doc, and so like Luke was saying, it was a lot to figure out.
And that stuff too is usually a lot more. I don't want to say like I don't want to say like a fluff piece, but like we're typically,
you know what you're trying to say.
Yes, we're typically just making a business or whatever look really good, whereas this was a lot more of like, well, where do the breadcrumbs lead, and like we didn't have to shy away from everything. Like like the Trail of Tears started there, stuff like that. Like we could mention things that maybe are on the darker side because they kind of tie into the paranormal.
Yeah. Did you get, you talked about like Hellier being an influence and like the Newkirks, but I kept going back to, and it's a little bit of like an older name, like Seth Breedlove with like Small Town Monsters.
Yeah.
Were you guys like inspired at all by like any of that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, for sure. I haven't seen as much of their stuff, but I'm aware of the brand and everything. But so I mean I think it's sort of a similar like vein,
Yeah. Yeah.
And our whole thing too, and like I think that's why I like the Newkirks a lot, because they're like they're about the story, like it's like that's what they want to,
right?
And it's not like our goal was not like let's go prove something exists, that's impossible. And I also don't like that sensationalized TV.
That was a big thing, right?
Yeah, like we don't want to make this like, I don't know, what is it, like Discovery Channel or whoever it is, like it's just so like obviously like trying to keep you glued to the TV
Right.
with just, and then the ghost ones are always the worst
Oh,
of it.
man.
They're just like,
Oh, yeah.
did you hear that? You know, and they're freaking out and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and
what's the
that-
guy, Zach Baggins or whatever?
Yeah.
exactly, just like that.
And
so,
it's like the thing I hate about the production of those as well is there's always that. I'd much rather watch like an hour long, like the Seth Breedlove type stuff because there's not this like in between what actually happens. There's like a, leading up to the commercial and then coming back from the commercial. There's just so much
Oh, yeah.
repetitive stuff that it's just
Yes.
like
100%.
I can't even stomach them, and it's just so lame.
Yeah,
the ghosts, those kind of shows like Ghost Hunters and all that stuff, it's like they were the worst because, like, before it goes to a commercial break, it would be like a minute leading up to this thing. And then it's like, okay, you're back from a commercial break and we're going to replay a full minute that you've already seen. It's just, it's so annoying.
yeah, so, and like, thankfully, we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff really, but also just, like, the whole thing was like, we found interesting people with like interesting stories. They've seen stuff they can't explain, and like our job is just to let them tell their story and give them a platform for that. Like, we're not here to judge the story or try to prove it right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that like is pretty parallel with the way we kind of approach things on our show too. And it's so funny because with the, I guess, accessibility of the internet and stuff, everyone wants to argue with everyone about everything. And for us, it's like, man, we just want to present this cool story that we think is creepy, rad, hilarious, weird, and then let you decide, But no matter what, we want to present the story because you might not have heard of it before. And the thing that we find in some of these cases that we've talked about on the show and stuff is so many of the people who come forward, it's a big risk on their behalf. And that was back when it was just their name in the newspaper. In
Especially
this case,
in the old days.
Yeah. In this case, their names, faces, voice, they're going to be on your docuseries. And so it's pretty cool that they were, brave enough to talk about it because, obviously, people are going to give them crap, potentially.
I don't think Vic really would care. I get the idea, the vibe.
No,
Yeah.
No, Vic was ready to share his story
he's
with
ready.
anyone.
yeah, he wouldn't care.
I love that dude.
But I thought Justin, the guy who experienced, had an encounter with Bigfoot, like he told us in his interview, I haven't really shared this with anyone.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the first times he's like coming forward and telling about this experience. And it's like, man, this is a bold step. If I was in his shoes, I don't know if that would have been my thought, of just, okay, I'm going on this documentary and then, on YouTube, almost 30,000 people have watched it so far to date, and you're
Do you
just
feel
like,
this like strange sense of like responsibility to kind of like protect these people now? I mean, that's something that I never really thought about until we're talking today is these people are taking this big risk and you're the one sort of delivering it. And it's like, oh man, are you worried about that? Or do you feel like everybody's just kind of more open-minded these days?
I think it's that like we want to take care of and protect them in the editing process and make sure they feel like
Put them in like the best light.
Yes.
yeah, and not in a way that's like they come off crazy or they come off
We're not doing like gotcha journalism.
right. And yeah, when interviewing them, like Luke was saying, we just wanted, it's all about them, allowing them to talk more so than us trying to get to a point, And I think when you move that into the editing process and the finished piece, it's like we feel confident with what we did that no one's going to come after them and be like, okay, you're making this up. There's some people on the YouTube comments who have been like, oh, this is fake. I've lived in Ellijay my whole life. I've never experienced anything like that. And that's fine. That's their experience too, but
But then there's a
other
ton of
people who have.
Yeah, there's a ton of comments where they're just like, oh yeah, I've definitely experienced a ton of stuff similar to this in Ellijay, But I think too, like just as far as like protecting these people's, integrity, everything else, like that was a good part of partnering with Pick Ellijay because like Caitlin Neal, she's like our executive producer on it, and so she was a big help in making sure that we didn't do anything that, like sometimes we can get in the weeds or we're just like a little too close to it. So she was good at like pointing stuff out if we were if this was going to like cross some line or whatever. Even like as simple as like, you know, blurring things out that needed to be blurred out just to make sure, like, you know what I mean? And then like, even we went to that Squidbillies statue they have, you know, just like it ends the series there, just and it's like not a huge part of it, but there's like phone numbers written on that thing. So it was just like, oh, we got to blur those phone numbers.
Yeah.
So it's like nice having that sort of infrastructure to help you because because a lot of times producing something like this, we might be doing it on our own and like we're not going to have quite the insight someone else that's in that position would have. So
she was
nice.
Fantastic too, just because Caitlin's lived in Ellijay pretty much her whole life. Like so her family's from there. And it's a pretty small community, you know, as it goes. So it's like everyone kind of knows everyone, and she was just a wealth of knowledge of here's some strange stories that, you know, I've heard from my grandmother or
that's awesome.
my dad, or, you know, this person shared this and I know them. So it helped in leading to those breadcrumbs. But like Luke's saying, it was also like, oh, if we did this, that might not sit well with the community. So in a lot of ways, she was also protecting us as we were, you know, having
Protecting
to protect
Ellijay
them.
too. Now, did I meet Caitlin at the?
Yeah.
I
was gonna say she's also a big That Would Be Rad fan, so I'm sure.
Oh, right on.
Oh
she's
yeah, I
definitely
remember
listening.
Caitlin.
I'm sure.
What's happening?
Awesome, man. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's a big fan of y'all's show. So
I will say, like, you know, you were saying that like there's people on YouTube saying like, oh, or you know, in the comments saying, I've lived here my whole life and I haven't seen anything. Earlier this year, for our longtime listeners, I had, well, it's really my wife's uncle, or I guess great uncle.
Funkle.
Funkle. God, I just showed somebody that yesterday. But this is a tough segue now into my missing uncle.
Yeah, dude, shoot. I'm so sorry, man. Oh, no. Now I realize where the story is going.
Yes,
and who's
I
about,
guess.
and I feel real bad about going.
let me just take this back to the top.
Oh, man.
Anyway, no, but
We're hitting
terrible.
record now.
So hit the button now.
Oh, man, this is terrible.
No, but you know, earlier in the year, my wife's great uncle, elderly guy, he disappeared, and so eventually they found him, and you know, he'd passed away, and kind of a pretty tragic story. But there was like an entire week where we were just driving those roads, you know, through like Suches and Ellijay and Blue Ridge and like all around that like little area. And I gotta say, there is like especially once the sun starts going down, it's like there is like a remoteness to it. You know, it's kind of that feeling that I've gotten like if you're out in like Montana or whatever. It's like it's a different kind of thing, but it feels like, man, you definitely could see there being like something in the woods or like, you know, like kind of sort of anomalous things could definitely happen in that setting.
Well, yeah, something that I think maybe Caitlin had told us was about just how big, you know, like the national forest and stuff like that are, and there's like animals in there that have never seen a human before.
Right.
So I mean, that's crazy enough to think about that they're living back in the woods and they're in the forest so far. Yeah, and maybe there is something else out there.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty like I feel like I don't know if egotistical is the correct word, but
it is
to think that you, even in a small town, are, you know, that you're privy to every single thing. I know it can feel that way when you're in the small town. Everybody knows everything about everyone, but when you're talking about the wilderness and stuff, I mean, it is. Ellijay, when we stayed at that cabin, is that what you call it? Yeah. Like, it was so, because it's so far off of the road, not to mention that road is, I mean, maybe I saw like 2 cars the whole weekend or whatever. Yeah. It was so quiet, you know, and just, you're just out in the woods. And I don't know, man. I mean, you're just not going to, how many times has that person walked up on a black bear, you know? All those things are rare occurrences, or relatively rare occurrences. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's pretty short-sighted, I think, to think, oh, I've lived here all my life and I've never seen anything like that. Well, hey, man, good for you. I've also never seen anything like that because, by the way, I'm the one on the show that doesn't like going looking for things like that. You know what I mean? I like to talk about them.
Well, also to that point, as somebody who's lived in the area, for the most part of my whole life, and has been into all this stuff, let's just jump right in. I've never heard of Dogman sightings in our area. I don't think ever. So that was a new one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of Dogman until we started working on this project. And
Well, he's like a big Michigan sort of staple back to like the 1800s.
After some research, it seemed like it was a lot more up north. But I think that was one of the coolest moments of. We met with Scott and Sheila Granger, and they have Squatch Fishing Outfitters. We met with them for the first episode, kind of doing the tree knocks and stuff. And then,
which, by the way, doing it in the rain, that's got to be fun.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
it
made it look
horrible.
cool.
It looked cool.
It looked awesome, but probably anyone really into Bigfoot would be like, "Why would you do it in the rain?" I mean, Scott even told us, he's like, "You're not going to hear anything." But we were there for the day, and we had to film.
Like any hunter would tell you, you're like, you can't hear the animals when it's raining. But regardless, we had to film, and we were like, "What are we supposed to do?" So we were like, "Let's just go. We can at least see like what the experience is like if you were to go out with them or whatever."
My favorite thing about it is Ellis decided to take this like camera rig backpack and put it on backwards and then have a umbrella duct taped to it just so he could film. And it ended up, it worked, but putting it on him, I was like, this is the goofiest thing.
It was about 40 degrees too.
That's very cold.
That was perfect for me to jump into a lake. It was like 39, I think, when we were. Anyway, let me ask you this, without spoiling anything necessarily. Was there sort of one story or encounter or anything that you experienced while filming it that freaked you out, creeped you out in the moment?
Yeah,
We'll return after these messages.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no dead.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show.
One of them that creeped me out was probably the River Street Tavern.
Yeah, I was about to say the same.
Because honestly, I guess ghost stuff freaks me out more than cryptid stuff a lot of times. Now, if I saw a cryptid in the woods, I'd be way more scared, I'm sure. But like just the... So like you were saying, like the stigma with some of this stuff is obviously there. So yeah, some of the folks, we didn't have a lot of people reach out, I think, because of that. Honestly, since these have gone out and they've been getting a really good response and everything else, we've had a lot more people reach out since then, being like, "Oh, I have stories, I'd like to be a part of it."
Send them our way because we
exactly.
We love that stuff.
But the so we got that one email that was they wanted to be anonymous, so. That's why in the story it's like we hired an actress to sort of do a reenactment, and she does the voiceover for it. But their email is like word for word what they sent, and it was very spooky. And I don't want to ruin it for folks who are going to watch it. But like that place is once we got there since we had read the email, once we got there we started talking to a few of the employees and just local people. And they were all like, "Oh yeah, this place is super creepy. I don't want to be here closing up by myself at night and never go upstairs by myself."
Because the office was upstairs, so whenever anyone would close up, they would have to eventually go upstairs, and you're up there, past midnight or so. And me and Luke went up there by ourselves to get a few clips of B-roll footage just to use in the edit.
And this was the daytime.
Yeah, it was like noon.
It was still scary.
That was the creepiest part, I think, for me. Anywhere else, I didn't really feel anything super weird, but that was like kind of creepy.
It kind of reminds me of what did we play in Chicago? That like Irish pub, the Basement. Same kind of like there's something going on here.
Yeah, but like for us, again, going back to I've never quote unquote experienced anything necessarily. The more you kind of think about it,
Yes,
personally, I've been in areas where you feel there's something different. You know, it's not to sound super sort of hippie or something, but you can just feel like a difference in like energy or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just creepy. And I don't know if that's
Vibrations.
psychosomatic, you know, because someone said, hey, there, you know, yeah, man, this place is haunted. Next thing you know, you're just like,
But I mean, if you're a fan of the show, you know that like
The Lincoln
we sort of
Lodge.
believe that it like charges that thing up. You know, it's like all the belief about it, and like, you know, going back to the Neil Gaiman American Gods kind of thing. It's like, you know, the more like people believe this thing, it's like the more it actually could exist. You know, it's like giving it power, kind of.
It's like why they say not to address the ghost or talk. Try to, you know, that's why don't use a Ouija board. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys ever had any paranormal experiences or cryptid sightings like yourselves, or like maybe within your families, or any old stories, you know, that you guys heard growing up or anything?
And here's the character assassination part of the show. So go ahead, guys.
Perfect.
Take it away.
Perfect.
Take it away.
I've had like people in my family, I think, you know, have told me some stories and stuff like that. You know, like the ones that are always tough to I guess discern is stuff that happens when you wake up, because you go like, was it a dream? Like, were you dreaming still? Like the sleep paralysis, all that. I mean, I've had sleep paralysis a ton in my life.
I've
for
had
sure.
it once. Yeah.
It's terrible.
So scary.
Yes. And dude, it's so funny because I have it pretty often, honestly. But I'll be like laying there and I'm screaming, and my wife Carrie, she hears me, but all she hears is like,
yeah, yeah.
Which probably is terrifying for her.
I do that too. Yeah.
But anyways, my mom had told me a story. She told me this a bunch of times as I was growing up about when she was a kid. She was like in the bed, wakes up, looks up at the ceiling, and says she saw an angel floating above her, like wings and everything, like basically like on the ceiling almost, which is really scary now that we saw weapons.
Oh,
and there's
God.
that one scene.
Don't spoil it for Todd.
Spoil
Oh
it,
my
spoil
God,
it.
that was the only one that I literally put my hands out towards the screen to stop it.
To
Woody
protect
did freak
yourself.
out.
I jumped, yeah. But anyways, yeah, and that always like really like kind of freaked me out, like to think if that was that an angel,
Yeah.
or was that something else?
Well,
Or,
did it scare her? I forget. I know you told the story.
I told you, yeah, because remember, I think we did the ghost
Yeah.
thing when we had our podcast. But yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I don't know if she was scared. You know, my dad had a similar story when he was a kid. Like in his bed, like he said that he saw the little girl from next door. Like she came through his window. The next morning, he found out she had died, and she was sick. She was sick and stuff. And dude, the window is still broken in that house because this is like he threw a rock or something, whatever. Maybe not a rock. I don't know if he probably did have rocks in his room, but he threw
It's
something.
just dirt floor.
Yes, yeah. He threw it at the window though because it scared him and broke the window. And then like the next day, she had passed away. I don't know.
Dude.
I don't even.
Wow.
That was forever ago. I don't know if that house is even still standing. But
Those
anyways.
are such great stories. Like you know, it's like people that are totally unaware that like somebody's passed, and then they, like what you're talking about. It's like that waking sort of liminal state where it's like, was it sleep or was I awake? It's like weird, but like, yeah, I love those. I feel like you used to hear a lot more of those back in the 80s and 90s and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I always wonder, you know, I don't know, man. That kind of stuff is just wild to me. You know, there's so many different ways you can slice what's going on there, you know.
Yeah.
And you hear about a lot of folks that are more quote unquote sensitive to that, you know. We've talked about that a little bit on the show. People who just as a family member's passing away, they get like a visit from them kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Or even like a phone call kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, Luke, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's in my nature. Luke, I wanted to ask you, since we kind of grew up, I don't know, 10 minutes from each other, technically. Yeah. Did you ever hear of the urban legend in Cleveland of like the Panther Lady?
Ooh, you know, that actually kind of sounds familiar now that you say that, but it's like a deep memory, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, the last I probably heard people talking about it, I was probably like 7 or 8. But I remember it was like a big deal as a kid. And like, you know, anytime you heard like a scream in the woods, it was like, oh, that's the Panther Lady.
Oh.
Is it like the Wampus cat?
This was supposedly like real and like, you know, like so many others in that area. It's like somehow connected to like, you know, the Cherokee and
Right, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
something to that extent. But yeah, it was one of those things that like a lot of people, I remember when I was like pretty young, like a lot of kids had also like heard about it. And what's weird is like my cousin Haley, do you know Haley, Luke?
I don't know.
My cousin Colt Stovall, his sister.
Yes. Yeah. I do. Yeah.
She randomly sent me a text asking if I remember the Panther Lady stories. And, you know, just like you, I was like, God, man, I totally forgot about that. And so I went online and I ended up finding like some obscure Reddit thread where all these people were like talking about when they were really little in North Georgia. They remember hearing all these stories and hearing these like screams in the woods that, you know, they were told by their parents or elders that it was the Panther Lady. So
Right. Well, that's like, it's kind of the value in all this stuff. The folklore, you know?
that's the best
like,
part.
I love that stuff. And it's just part of our culture. It's like, it really does, it does bring people together in a way. And a lot of it is just people trying to make sense of the world.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's it, guys.
That's it.
There's our show.
There we go.
Yeah. Now, we kind of did a little bit opposite than I thought we would in terms of, you know, your creative process, since we went on a diatribe about AI and the relevance of it,
Right.
How you're going to, you know, incorporate it into everything you do. But I'm just kidding. In terms of like...
Listen, we're putting the camera down, dude. We're no more filming.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, obviously logistics and stuff were different. You kind of mentioned that it being a much longer form documentary style production and stuff. Was there any, and then it was raining when you filmed the Bigfoot one, but
Dude,
there
it was
any-
raining every day we filmed.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad.
Call him out, Brad. Call him out, bro.
Get it right.
I'm here for it.
Did you receive like I'm? Oh, okay, Brad.
Dude,
They're just dead silence.
You
on there.
missing that bit of information really just grieves me.
Yeah.
It should.
Anything behind the scenes, like, well, I mean, we don't have to put this in, but the thing that I'm curious of is, you know, you kind of have this outreach of, hey, if anybody has any crazy stories about their experience being in Ellijay, let us know. Then you get them. Were there any that didn't quite make it to the?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some that couldn't make it. I think what people, when we did the outreach, didn't realize is with it being partnered with Pick Ellijay, the tourism board, like if you were in Blue Ridge just up the road, you know, we couldn't really include your story. And so we got a lot of, well, it was just the way, like, they're helping produce this, and it's all about supporting their tourism as well as this subversive advertising. So it's like you don't want to advertise for something out of county.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of also, it's like, I think it would just sort of affect the story a little, like it does, you know, so.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of stuff that were right outside the county lines that were good leads that we couldn't follow. There was one, like, email, we probably should send it to y'all, that, like, we got months later, and it was so creepy.
Yeah, that one
definitely
was,
send it.
that one it was almost like too dark for us to maybe even, because it was so demonic.
Wow.
Because I'm a little freaked out about that.
Yeah,
I don't
I do
know
too.
how deep we want to get into it.
Well,
Not
and that's
get
the thing
into
too, is like we never really, we're kind of like Woody. We didn't want to go into these situations that we're not going to be in a haunted house at night. Like that's just not.
Well,
I think how
would.
me and Luke want to be.
Well, we're not paranormal investigators,
Right.
You know, like, and I don't think we're qualified to do anything like that. We don't really want to. We're filmmakers, and like we want to tell the stories. So it was like we're not really going out to like find these things, whatever.
Yeah.
But we want to talk to the people who have seen.
I
This
feel
stuff.
like all these things really draw us in out of curiosity and fear.
Yeah.
You know? Like that's probably the driving motivation between Luke and I of like wanting to, you want to know more, but then you're also kind of ready to take a step back if it gets too scary.
Yeah. And see, I love that approach versus, I just feel like hey man, we're setting up this I've got these instruments that I'm telling you do this to tell if there's a ghost here. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just feel like it's so tired and it's just not entertaining me. I love the, you know, someone's telling their story and then you're adding in a movie behind it, you know?
Yeah, the reenactment.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff is so much cooler to me than just like, it's late at night and I've got a flashlight pointing at my face.
I mean, Woody, you say this, but whether you know it or not, you do know that Joshua Cutchin wants us to go spend the night in like the old loft to see if we can see any of the orbs.
Yeah, and I'm not doing that. So, I mean, like, same with like, hey, we're going to camp in an area that we know there's Bigfoot stuff. No thank you.
No.
See, I love that stuff.
That's a good way to...
I'm the one that goes camping so much more than you, pal.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't camp because I have
you're
soccer.
like, I love that stuff.
Because of soccer.
I do love that stuff.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is
Bravery.
Yeah, it's not a we go back and forth on the show about that. It's not about me not being brave.
It is though.
It's about me being smart, man.
It's
I'm
smart,
not putting myself
yes.
in a situation like I want to tell a story. I don't want to live it. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
And also, like that sounds like a good way to get like a hitchhiker ghost or something coming home with you.
Now,
No
I
thanks.
do believe in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Actual serial killers out on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh no, I'm in a ghost, but yeah, you could get a real serial killer
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
No, go ahead, man.
Going back to the Dogman thing, I had like a clear thread. You know, I wanted to talk, and then Woody sort of drove away from the dock on that. But with the Dogman, the interesting thing about that, and this is sort of a common phrase on the show. We're eventually going to do a full episode. But with the Dogman, the original like story in Michigan, like back in the, I don't remember when, but like 1800s, it was just like the head of a dog and then the body of just like the regular body of a man. And so I was wondering did they specify if it was like, you know, fully hairy, more like a Bigfoot, or was it kind of like did they specify on that?
Yeah, I think it was leaning more towards the full fur, like almost like werewolf type looking thing.
Yeah.
And we had a follow-up episode that we released pretty recently that it is like an excerpt from the series of them talking about another encounter with a Dogman creature.
Yeah, we kind of trying this little thing called Unknown Redacted. So it was like stuff that didn't make it into the cut.
Oh, that's cool.
And here's how it goes full circle. Ellis took a lot of AI to help make the reenactment footage of it.
Because we had nothing.
Because we knew some of those threads when filming the documentary, you can't really, capture all of it.
Well, yeah, and the most compelling thing was like she had a photo that she thinks she can see a Dogman in. So like obviously we followed that thread.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had this other story about, one that like ran out in front of her car and all this stuff. And then the next day they went back and saw these tracks. So definitely sounded
more dog-like.
More dog-like, yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Maybe it's a skinwalker.
Dude, you know, it's funny. I've always sort of thought of the Dogman in that way. And it's kind of like the Wendigo, even maybe too, where it's like, that it's often looked at as like some sort of like guardian or maybe even like elemental spirit, sort of like the Woody, like the Bell Witch kind of thing, to where it's like this weird sort of chimera or hybrid of like, it's half this, But it's interesting because a lot of those are very different from Bigfoot in the sense that like, they hang around like graveyards or cemeteries to like as like some sort of like guardian to the area, and it makes it, I don't know, it's sort of, to me, it's a little more interesting because it's less about like, oh well, this is just a Gigantopithecus or a North American wood ape, but now it's in the it's a lot more sort of high strangeness. So it's like,
yeah, and definitely more high strangeness because it's like you could like feasibly see a flesh and blood Bigfoot. Like the idea of that makes sense because it's almost similar to something we already know. Whereas a dog man, is not. But like so, like with the Beast of Bray Road and like all that stuff, like. Or was the original as far as the body and the head and all that stuff back then? Did they sorry, I forgot what I was going to say, but hold on.
No.
It was the graveyards. The graveyard. That's what I was trying to get. Was it like known for like guarding graveyards and stuff in that original story as well, or is that developed?
I'm not sure if like the original sort of Beast of Bray Road, if that was associated with graveyards, but I do know that like a lot of the sightings in Michigan originally were like. So basically, what I'm saying is like I don't know that they like put it together in those earlier days as far as like, oh, it's like, you know, they're known to be around these graveyards. I think just a lot of the sightings just to them it was like, oh, they just happened to happen in graveyards.
Yeah,
I get that.
Gotcha.
But one of the interesting things to me about like Dogman, and again, I'm sure we'll talk about this, you know, in a future episode, but the thing that's cool is like if you go back to like there's like ancient tribes and even like societies in like ancient Greece, and some people even believe that like the word like Canaan is a derivative, or the word canine is derived from Canaan, because there's these stories of these like full like villages or tribes of people that had like dog heads, and it's called like cynocephaly. And some people even believe that the accounts and some of the early artwork of like Saint Christopher, he even like literally had a dog head.
That's what Vic, when we talked with him, he mentioned that.
Yeah.
And there's also, you know, of course, the Egyptian stuff.
Yeah,
the Anubis.
Anubis, yeah.
See, I thought you were going to go with, when I mentioned Skinwalker, a different direction. So another thing about what that I thought was kind of cool in your series for sure is one of those folks was talking about Ellijay and its proximity to the Trail of Tears and the Native American population that was, you know, killed and stuff. And even just that was there locally and have, you know, burial grounds and stuff. And us being kids of the 80s and 90s and stuff, well, that just equals there's got to be poltergeists and
100%.
stuff. Well, I've always thought of sometimes as, I should say, one of the things I think about cryptid sightings like Dogman or anytime that's more like humanoid sort of, I'm wondering, is this something that people are seeing in mid sort of change? You know? And so it's like not necessarily like a lycanthrope or whatever, like a werewolf, but is it somebody that is a skinwalker, you know, a Native American that's able to transform into a different being? And maybe that, you know, we think of that because of movies such as like Teen Wolf and stuff, where that transition between man and beast is just like, you know, a few bubbly moments on your face in the bathroom before your dad knocks on the door.
Scott? Can I come in?
No, Dad. No, I'm doing something in here. All set.
You may be surprised. Whatever it is, son, you can tell me. I'll understand.
No, Dad. No, not this time.
And so, like, our time reference is sort of skewed by our pop culture here, but what if it took 4 hours, you know? And in that time, you're still able to sort of move, but you're just sort of like, you know, in between the mental state of a human and a, you know, a creature or whatever. And so you're just kind of like wandering around and somebody's like, what the heck is that? And you're just like, oh, trying to communicate with it or something. I don't know. That's kind of what I've always thought. Like, what if we're just seeing some of these creatures in the middle of that sort of transformation that's happening, you know, physically?
Yeah. And that's called like, I think it was like therianthrope is like basically a human that's able to like transform into something else.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that it's like a long process. So like,
what if it was like for years, you know, not just 4 hours, but that's why they look like that. It's
for like a long period of time.
Wow. Yeah,
man.
That's cool.
Now, would you say doing this series, I don't if you're comfortable telling us your opinion on cryptids and or your belief in like the paranormal and ghosts and stuff, then that's cool. You can certainly tell us that, but you don't have to.
I would prefer.
Ultimately, I want to glean, did doing this series sort of change that opinion in one way or the other?
So like, I think between me and Brad, I'm like been more into like maybe true believer camp more, and he's on
the skeptic.
Yeah, which kind of makes for a more interesting dynamic, I think.
It's kind of like me and Tyler a little.
Yeah, but like, so I, you know, I don't know, like that definitely, like meeting people and hearing their stories, like it definitely made me, I don't know if it made me like lean more into it. I was more intrigued by it for sure. But what about you, Brad? Like,
I would say the same thing. It's like coming from it for a more skeptical side. I think it's interesting. I don't know if it really moved me, like past the 10-yard line or something like that.
What does that mean?
Is that a sports reference?
That's a sports.
Tyler's not going to get the
reference.
sports reference.
So lost.
Okay, but it didn't really change my opinion too much. But I agree with Luke that it's like when you approach it and you're having these conversations with people, and especially I think the Bigfoot stuff, you start, like the first person we talked to was Vic, and I think Vic's like attitude and characteristic really came out on camera of like, this is a guy who's like really deep in it. He really thinks this stuff.
Him and I would get along. Awesome.
But some people would possibly see his style of true believerism being maybe too far out there for him.
Right.
And so that Vic, to me, fit the description of the type of person who is already in this camp. And so you're sort of like, of course, he fits that stereotype maybe I had in my mind. But then when we talked to David Bacara at Expedition Bigfoot and Scott and Sheila Granger, like Scott is a retired police officer, and they approached it almost with like a different style of, coming to where they stand on Bigfoot. And it's like, okay, especially when, for me, I started noticing a lot of these threads of their stories really were connecting together. And these people aren't like all deciding, they don't go to the yearly Bigfoot meeting and like say, anytime we talk about Bigfoot, we're going to tell people this, this, and this. So that's where I think for me, it's like, I still don't know if it's Bigfoot. I don't know if that's, Dogman, whatever, but it's like, it's interesting that people are coming to the same conclusion because of, these things that all kind of appeared in their stories.
Right. Yeah, and like some of the stuff that didn't necessarily make it in the edit was Scott telling us about when they go out there, they've had like full-on daytime sightings. And definitely seen it, Bigfoot on infrared and that kind of stuff. But they, they claim they've had daytime sightings, and that when he takes people out, it's like a pretty good chance that they're going to see something. So like,
he seemed pretty confident.
Dude, I would love to do that. By the way,
well, he would definitely take you out. Maybe you guys tell him you'll feature him on the podcast.
Yeah, dude, that would be awesome.
But yeah, so that was interesting, and also like them. As well as Justin, the guy who had the story, like they were not like people who thought about Bigfoot.
Right.
Like, they just saw something that they couldn't really explain. So I think that's where I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And if nothing else, like I definitely come away from this I feel confirmed in believing that like there are things in the world that we do not understand and maybe we'll never understand, and things that are just that's beyond like our comprehension as humans.
Yeah,
100%.
Or at least just not discovered yet.
Yeah. And for whatever that means, because you've got, even within, it's so funny. Of course I had, like, as a kid, we talk about this too all the time. You go to the book fair or whatever, you get the weird creatures book. And that's what I think of when I think about this kind of stuff. It's like you had your Loch Ness, you had your Bigfoot, you had UFOs. And of course I was interested in it.
Quicksand.
But then I know, quicksand. Hey kids, don't go out the door. You're going to die from quicksand. I had that interest. But then I never really thought about it past a certain point, and and then so getting back into it when we started the show, I started to notice in looking at different things online and stuff that even within each community of people just trying to figure out what's going on here, that there's like infighting with, well, no. The creature is a descendant of, it's like the North American wood ape. It is this, it's whatever. Yeah. And then there's some folks that are like, well, I think, maybe it's a dimensional creature, an interdimensional creature. And then other folks will say, well, no, I think it doesn't exist at all. And other, are all these different theories, which I love theories. I just, man, it just sucks whenever people are so hell-bent on
like dogmatic about
and saying that theirs is the correct one. You know?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's the realm I like to be into of like, it's the fact that none of this is really confirmed either way that makes it really cool.
Yeah. And we honestly, I mean, had some reservations because of that. I think it's like putting something out like this definitely opens you up to that kind of criticism. And it's like, it's almost like it's a tough like community to like break into, I guess, or whatever. But also like, because we're putting it out there, obviously there's a lot of people in that community like that are going to watch the show or that we would want them to watch it, like want them to enjoy it. And so, so there is sort of that, like, a little bit of that fear that's like, oh, now we're going to be, like, criticized because we don't know everything about Bigfoot.
Oh,
yeah.
We have that fear even on the show where...
I don't care, man.
No, I mean, we don't really care, but it's like...
Yeah, that fear exists. Actually, it doesn't.
We will return after these messages.
Mamá, papá, mi cuerpo crece a un ritmo alarmante y la ropa que me compren ahora me quedará muy pequeña muy pronto. Pero su billetera no tiene que sufrir por la moda con los precios bajos de la vuelta a clases de Amazon. Amazon, gasta menos, sonríe más.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
America's future can be determined by our dreams and our visions.
It was very intense, bright light.
For over 200 years, there have been reports of giant man-like creatures.
From another dimension, another world, I don't know.
The most intriguing mystery on the North American continent.
This is Joshua Cutchin, and you're at my home for weirdness. That would be rad.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of one of those things that happens more in like retrospect. So it's like we put out an episode and then you keep researching.
Someone corrects you.
Well, or that, and you're like, dang, man.
Or we forgot. We left something out. Yeah. It's more that. And we feel, like we're telling this story, but we're doing it in like an hour and a half format and we're trying our best. And I mean, so that kind of thing I can understand with as far as criticisms go. If it's just some guy that, has been doing this for 20 years and he's just got a chip on his shoulder anyway, and he's like, well, now Woody and Tyler are into it, man. Now they are. It's like that kind of person. I'm like, dude, like, it's that kind of thing that sort of just it's annoying. And I think, unfortunately for them, it's sort of that approach that has ultimately turned people off and just say like, well, we think you're a kook, pal. And that's unfortunate because the stories are there, the interesting factor is there, and if you're some jack trying to sell a book, be nice and you're going to sell it to more people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, totally. One thing, as we're kind of nearing the end here, I would say, and this might be a weird question, but did you guys get any or do any interviews or get any emails that were that had maybe a little too much high strangeness, or it was a little like too weird, because what are you talking about? The belief, there's the camp that believes Bigfoot's flesh and blood, and then the other camp is like where the footprints end kind of stuff, where it's Did you guys get any of that you felt like we can't really add this because it just feels too far off?
It's like those stories, like the where the aliens came down and made flapjacks for the guy,
right?
Yeah,
the buckwheat pancakes.
Yes, and people are just like, they're never going to believe this because this is so far out. I'm trying to think if we had anything really weird.
We had discussions with David at Expedition Bigfoot. He talked about the more like
esoteric kind of.
Yeah, the side of Bigfoot that's like interdimensional.
See, that's what we get into.
I mean, definitely like Vic's stuff was a lot of that.
Vic
and I love,
probably
yes,
had
I
the
love
most
Vic.
outside.
Like I love Vic, and I've known him my whole life, you know. So like he's really did to like turn me on to a lot of paranormal stuff growing up. But some of it was just like it didn't like necessarily fit the story really well. But it's also like just. It's
I mean,
like,
he went into the Anunnaki, things like that.
Stuff like that. So, and honestly, like we did talk a lot of alien stuff with Vic. That unfortunately, we filmed with him before we even started the series, really. So it eventually, because originally we were going to do an alien episode, but we just didn't find like alien like stories,
like
you know,
abductees.
Yeah,
basically, a whole lot of them lining up to be on Ellijay's apple picking site.
Exactly, and no one wanted to come forward about it or whatever. And then Caitlin was kind of like, well, we're not like super known for anything like that, so tying it in just was too hard. And which was a bummer.
And that's a good point too. Like the Bigfoot was like the easiest first step. With the project because they have the museum and you could like throw a rock at a corner of their downtown and find something Bigfoot related. So it was like such an easy layup to go that way. And then Ghost made like the most sense of every town has a ghost story of some kind.
Yeah.
And the UFO part, sorry to cut you off, Tyler,
no.
But
I was trying to
like
cut you off.
it was cool to like want to take it in that direction because I mean Luke and I both love like aliens and that style of science fiction and stories, and unfortunately they didn't have that like Roswell type event that happened there, but I think Dogman ended up, like I mentioned earlier, that was the one I knew the least about going into it, but that's because that third episode we're kind of figuring it out in real time what it's going to be about. And so that one ended up being really cool. Not saying the other ones weren't. I think they're fantastic, but because it was us on that journey just as much, instead of being like, okay, we know we're going to talk about Bigfoot, and the journey is how deep you go into it. This one was more like, we don't know where we're stepping and where it's going to end up, and then at the end you're like, holy crap, Dogman, that's like a really cool narrative thing. And like you said, a lot of people don't know there's experiences of Dogman in Northeast Georgia.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the thing that I thought was pretty cool, that like like Ghost and Bigfoot, to your point earlier, Luke, when you were saying like, we want the people who are like already into this stuff, like we want them to like what we're doing and to see that we also love these things, but at the same time it's also like I kind of feel like, especially in this like shorter format, like you're imagine like your neighbor who's a basketball coach who like has only ever like heard of Bigfoot. I think these are awesome for him, but then that third episode you throw Dogman, which is it's getting into like a good bit deeper than like your sort of baseline like cryptids and stuff. So I think it was a great mix.
Totally. Well, thank you. And hopefully like maybe we'll get to do an alien episode eventually somewhere. Like we're like right now the future of this is like we've pitched to like multiple other locations so far. Like we pitched to Dahlonega, and that's like where we're based out of. So we definitely would love to do Dahlonega, but we've talked to some other places, and I'm really hoping that we can like keep doing these type of episodes, because like Brad said, everywhere has like ghost stories, but like they
Weird
also
folklore.
have the folklore,
And
weird and like just like weird cryptids like that are. I mean, like we talked to a guy who has a festival that's called Old Green Eyes. And this is in Chickamauga, and so we had a call with him and
that's
talked
a
about
Bigfoot
that
thing too, right?
It seemed like more like a ghostish cryptid, like Civil War soldier. Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's weird too. It seems like it's a mix of things, but it basically people report seeing these green eyes out there in the dark.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was like a Bigfoot, but maybe not.
I think it is kind of like a mix of things, I believe.
Well, and so this is in Chickamauga. They've started this festival because they went up to the Mothman Festival, and they were like, "This is so cool! Like, why don't we have something like this in our town?"
Oh yeah.
So I love.
And they had like 5,000 people show up for their first year.
Yeah, I've never heard of this, Woody.
This
sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I just love that like ingenuity of just being like, let's just make this happen here in our town.
Yeah.
You know, and so anyways, we talked with him, and we're hoping that we'll be able to connect with them, and maybe we could do an episode there or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at as far as the future.
The goal is just, we know the stories that are out there. We just want to find the next place to really focus on and dive in.
That's awesome. I mean, I got to say, man, like, and this is a big, thumbs up to you guys, but like, if any of our listeners have anything to do with, your local like city council or anything like that, I mean, it just seems like a win for this kind of stuff. Like even, and like we always say when we're asking folks to share their stories or to write in or to, tell their stories on the website, it's like, every, like Luke, you and I were just talking about like the Panther Lady and stuff. It's like every little town has these like obscure, folklore. And I mean, to have like a professional like group of guys like you just like show up and like put the town in like the best light possible, and like it's like professional quality, and it's it just seems like an easy win,
Yeah, and it's like it's an untapped market is what I was going to say. It's like a lot of these people are not necessarily advertising to this sort of offbeat traveler, so I think
that's so cool. I think that's a thumbs up to Ellijay in that sense.
Big time.
I think it's cool that they're like, yeah, man, we need to embrace it. We've already got the apples. Let's get some,
but in the metrics, it's showing it's working. There are people who are ready and willing to take a unknown trip to Ellijay and just seek out all the spooky and weird stuff, which is awesome.
And I think it's cool too, to Tyler's point, anytime we're encouraging people to come forward with their stories, hopefully after listening to the show, and by now if they have for a while, they know that we're going to treat it with respect and be delicate when we need to, and sort of just give them that platform, like you said earlier, Luke, to tell that story in the best way possible. And instead of, because there are a lot of people that, I feel bad when you watch these documentaries, like I'm a true crime junkie, and you watch these documentaries and sometimes you feel like that, well, I don't know, this doesn't really happen so much in that sense, but that gotcha type journalism is just,
I know exactly what you're talking about with like the true crime stuff. You're like, wait, this person, it's like they probably didn't think their interview is going to be like so damning against them. Yeah.
And also it's like you're making this person
I'm a suspect. And so I think it's cool and refreshing, but also for those people kind of just on the fence of whether or not they should share their story. I think doing it, audio like we do on the show or visual with you guys is a way that they can still remain anonymous and then have that story told. And I imagine that there's got to be some, level of peace that they'll sort of have, I think, once they kind of are able to share that. You know what I mean? And here's something else that's happened on our show. We've had situations where a listener will either send in the audio or write it up for us, and we'll, narrate it and all that. And then because of that story, someone from another part of the world will then write us and say, dude, I was just listening to the story and I can't believe it. This is something that happened to me. Yeah. And so then we're able to kind of like share that on the next show. And I think you end up sort of building this community of people that are like, hey, we've all kind of, it's sort of like when you go through something together, it sort of bonds you, not to bring it back to D&D, but whether it's D&D as a table, you guys go through these challenges that I put in front of you or Ellis puts in front of us, and you kind of bond over that kind of stuff. The same military guys and gals get that bonding over, something unfortunately tragic and or extreme, but anything like that we experience as humans can kind of bring us together. And I think this gives that opportunity for folks who may have been through something traumatic or scary or interesting, that there are other people out there in the world. You don't have to live with that on your own. There are other people who experience that. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're not alone in your crazy experience.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, before we go, I definitely want to you guys to let folks know, like, where is the best place that people can watch the Unknown Ellijay docuseries?
Yep, so it's on the Sozo Bear Films YouTube channel. That's the best place. We've got all 3 episodes. Like we said, we're kind of doing this Unknown Redacted thing we're working on. And hopefully we're going to be doing Unknown insert your town name here. Yeah, like that's the goal. So, but yeah, those first 3 episodes are up, and please go check them out. Comment, let us know what you think, and if you've had experiences like that, please comment that or reach out.
Yeah, and if you guys dig a little deeper, you can see a couple of my. I mean, I don't want to say the word stellar. Yeah. But I feel like Oscar worthy should be mentioned.
No one says hey quite like Hector.
The funniest thing ever is I built it up so much for my kids. Like, okay, guys, you can't watch the whole thing because it might be a little scary. Because this was a couple years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, get ready, here we go. And she's like, oh, hey, Hector. I'm like, hey. I even added like a little bit of a beforehand. I figured 2 words are better than 1.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, I mean, I love what you guys are doing. I'm so glad that, you decided to come on the show. I'm
glad you guys finally brought us on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Any hints about like an upcoming big project that we should get excited about?
Ooh.
I mean, right now we're so deep in this stuff. We're just still working on them. I mean, we do have our film festival coming up in January, though. So if like anyone listening is into that kind of thing, it's a fun event called Sozo Bear Presents a Night at the Movies. So like in January 30th, I think we show like short films from all over the world, and usually we have a film that we're premiering as well. So it's a cool like red carpet event.
Well, and you're also
downtown Dahlonega, Georgia.
You're underselling it a little bit. It's in Dahlonega, it's a small town here in Georgia, in North Georgia.
Local theater.
This small, old school local theater. And it's just really, really cool. So not only is it a cool place to, not yet, Tyler, not only is it a cool place for people to see a movie in general, but it's also just, very cool event. And man, I've always wanted to like just throw a movie together and get it in that old festival.
Submit
it, man.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
It's going to be a lot of nudity.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say
Ellis will blur out more stuff.
That's the theater where Woody and I met for the first time.
Oh, yeah, true.
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, why? Were you there for like a...
Both of our bands are playing.
Both bands.
They were both trying to audition for Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing like the girl
Tyler made a
version.
good Wendy, but like the thing was that I just, they didn't buy our chemistry. So
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, drop us a line over on our Instagram. Jump in the conversation. Tell us about your local urban legend or maybe your own personal ghost story in our DMs. If it's more long form, head over to thatwouldberadpod@gmail.com. If you're even more brave and want to feature it in your own voice, you can do so at thatwouldberadpodcast.com. If you would like to support the show, you can do well. The best way to do that is through our Patreon, the Rabbit Trail. Yeah, we'd love to have you. It really helps us keep the lights on and keep this train on the tracks, and it means the world to us. Again, we want to thank the guys at Sozo Bear, and go give them a follow, show them some love online. And Woody, you got anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, we love you. We appreciate you, and as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. You're my favorite song on the radio. were already dead before you became a ghost. You are